Good morning, traders. I'm Dennis Dick.
And I'm Joel Elconin. Welcome to Thursday's edition of Pre-Market Info.
Big Bad Ben at it again here after the bell, coming out looking like there's no end to quantitative easing here, or at least highly accommodative monetary policy in the foreseeable future. We are trading up 17 points here this morning. Stocks are flying across the board. What did Big Bad Ben have to say? We've actually got Matt Kannerman here from the Benzinga News Desk. Matt, are you there?
Yeah, I'm going to put him on here for
Oh, that's
Can's
Joel.
rant.
We'll get Matt here in a second. Matthew.
How's it going, traders?
Hey, Matt, how's it going? Just wondering if you
Good.
could give us a quick minute or two on what Big Bad Ben had to say there after the market.
Yeah, so I think the key quote from what he said is the overall message is accommodation. He said those words. It doesn't matter if the Fed is going to taper purchases. Interest rates are going nowhere. And you heard the Minneapolis Fed president, Coach Lakota, say a similar thing a few weeks ago after the Fed release. Just because they're going to taper purchases does not mean the Fed is not going to be accommodative. They're going to keep easy money policy until the unemployment rate hits at least 6.5%, if not lower, and inflation gets back towards 2%.
So basically, all these concerns about the short-term interest rates possibly going up, Big Bad Ben alleviated some of those concerns there after the bell, did he?
Yeah, and you had Bill Gross keep reiterating his stance that he sees the 10-year bond yield at 2% versus 3% in the near future. So basically, you see a lot of people, including the Fed officials, saying that this market move is overdone and that the Fed is going nowhere anytime soon. Not to mention that you have the ECB, the Bank of England, and the Bank of Japan all being more easy.
Yeah, so they're all still in the whole ease as opposed to tightening. So these concerns where short-term rates are going to start flying up may be unwarranted here.
Exactly.
And
And you had Adam Button, who was on the Benzinga Pro audio feed a few weeks ago, talking about inflation and inflation expectations holding the Fed policy and global monetary policy on easy, basically saying there's no inflation in this economy, in the world economy whatsoever. And as long as inflation stays low, the global central banks will stay easy.
And that's why the S&P futures are flying 17 points here this morning. Well, thanks, Matt. Appreciate those thoughts. Keep up the good work there. And Joel, are you still kicking around?
Joel's right here. Hold on.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
That was
Joel.
Can's rant. We'll have to get that back on again.
Yeah, Matt, thanks a lot. We do appreciate the fundamental talks there on the overall markets, or on the overall market and the economy. Joel, we are rallying 17 points here, obviously, this morning. What is the technical saying? So now we know what Big Bad Ben was thinking, but what is the technical saying?
Well, you just have to keep an eye on the overnight high there of 1667.50. You also have the high of the move in the futures right around the 1680 level. Very, very difficult to trade these kind of opens, Dennis. So what kind of strategies do you employ on an open like this?
Like when the market is up this much, when you're up over 1% here, and we haven't been seeing this kind of volatility. Well, we have a little bit lately, but typically we don't see the market up 17 points. You've got to go right to fair value, and I talk about that, and we talk about that a lot on the show. And fair value is just basically looking at the individual stocks and looking at how much they should open relative to what the S&P futures are doing. You've got to consider the beta. So basically, if the stock's obviously a little less volatile, it's not going to open quite up as much as the S&P futures would do. Stocks that have, a higher beta are going to open up more than the S&P futures are due. So, and the financials typically usually are a beneficiary, and they usually open up a little bit more than especially off of Big Bad Ben comments there, when they're saying that we're going to stay easing here, at least for the foreseeable future, or at least not go to tightening. The banks and the financials are the direct beneficiaries of all that. So when I look at them, I'm going to say they're going to be probably up more than 1% here, because we're up 1.02% on the S&P futures. But those are going to benefit more, so they're probably going to be up a little bit higher than that. So you look at that, and if the stocks open too low at 9:30, you might look to buy them. If they open up too high, you might look to sell them. That's how the fair value is done. And there's a lot of guys that do statistical arbitrage off of those trades, off of those specific plays. But if we go to specific stocks here, Joel, like bring up a Citigroup. If you look at Citigroup this morning, $50.42 is where it's bid here in the pre-market. 49.63 is where it went out. If you take a percent up, say roughly 50 cents, I would put it about 50.10. It's up at 50.42, so up a little bit more because obviously they're the direct beneficiary. So I would say that's probably correctly priced right now, right around 50.40, considering where the S&P futures are. If for whatever reason it opens up at $50 at the New York Open, I might take a flyer to try to buy that if the S&P futures are still trading up 17 points. So that's kind of how you do it on the individual stocks. If it opened up too high, I might short it, but I'm a little hesitant to short any financial right now, just because obviously they're the direct beneficiary.
Right, and also just kind of another part of the strategy. I know me and you talk about this a lot, but keeping an eye on the pre-market levels.
Yeah.
Obviously, the big participants, the institutions, and whatnot. And just for an example here, someone's letting a piece of Citigroup go at 50-50 here.
Yeah. It's a big
trading
number.
decent. Yeah, it's a big number. It's a half number. So that would be the number that I would be focusing on. On the open. And then I also like to see if there's some other numbers around there, from the daily trading here that would actually, support, that pre-market level. And looking right now, don't really see much at the 50-50 level. You did have a double top from Tuesday and Wednesday at 50 and a quarter, 50.25. So if we do get a decline, that's going to be your first level of support.
Yeah. Let's move on to a few of the other financials here. We'll try to give you, because obviously these are the ones that are really going to be moving here this morning. Go to JP Morgan. They actually report earnings tomorrow morning as well. So a couple factors obviously influencing JP Morgan here this morning, and obviously the earnings coming up. 55.56 is where it's trading the pre-market, so a bit above fair value, which we would expect because obviously they're going to benefit the most from if we stay in an easing stance as opposed to tightening. But if we look at the highs there, Joel, I know you're going to point those out. We're approaching the 52-week high there.
Right, that is at 55.90. You had a nice little double top there, 55.83 to 55.90. Looking at the pre-market, see what level. We've only been able to get up to 55.73 here. So here is a stock. According to fair value, also what's going now, it is opening into resistance. Funny, I was looking, I did a lot of my levels this morning because I knew things were going to have to be adjusted. And I looked above that 55.90 and the 56 level, and you got to go back to January of 2001 to find resistance in JP Morgan. And I believe that was the high back then was 57.33. I don't think we're going to see that today.
So we're approaching decade highs here in JP Morgan. The whale trade long gone, and I'm still going to be mad at you for that $30.31. I won't get into it. So
shorted here.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But keep in mind, though, the 56, the whole numbers are going to be big on this. So this thing starts to get up in that 56 area. There's probably going to be some institution. There always seems to be an institution. When it has been up there for a decade, it's bound to be some institution that says, look, it gets up to 56, get me out of a block. So I wouldn't be surprised if you do have a big block sitting at 56. I can't see that in the book. So don't be surprised if that old 52-week high, or if you start to get in some resistance in the 55.90s, as traders lean on that whole 56 whole number. Wells Fargo reports tomorrow too, Joel. WFC stock is trading up 50 cents here, obviously with fair value again. Its beta is a little bit lower than some of the cities and some of the other banks, so it typically doesn't open up quite as much as some of the other ones. A little more conservative bank, but regardless, opening up, looking at that $43 level, but which is about 35 cents higher than this, as probably pretty significant resistance.
Right. Also, looking the activity that you had in that stock, the high in the pre-market has been 42.64. So you take a look at trading from yesterday. That one I wouldn't be too scared about buying. I mean, you're only buying it 6 cents, 8 cents above yesterday's high, so that should be decent support there. And then the only other level you have there is the 43.08 high. That was from Tuesday, and you had the 42.97 high the day before. So someone's targeting that $43 area as well. Nice round number in the Wells Fargo. And that stock has held up over a couple downgrades.
Yeah, it really has actually. Those downgrades probably gave you a pretty good chance to pick up some stock, it looks like. Bank America too rallying obviously off of the Fed. 1354 is where it's trading at this morning after closing at 1337. So Bank America up pretty significantly as well and actually trading very close to yesterday's high.
Yeah, and also the previous day's high, Dennis. How come this thing is not getting more of a boost here? I mean, it's opening into that double top, 1353. I mean, it's a little bit of is that a little bit below fair
No,
value
not
there
really. Well, if
here?
you take roughly a percent, you'd say 13, 14 cents. So that would put it up to about 13.51. It's a little bit above that because it's a financial stock. So I think it's kind of close to fair value. The only thing to consider is I do see some big institutional size up at 13.55. I see 150,000 shares. It can blow through that Bank of America though. But I also see another 350,000 shares at 13.60. So you do have traders probably leaning on that size there, and that's maybe why it topped out just under 13.55 there a couple days ago
Yep. Also, if
and
you go
yesterday.
back to June 10th, you had a 1355 high. So what, triple top, quadruple top there, whatever you want to call it. But approaching the resistance in the June 4th high of 1367. And then if it really goes in the rally mode, you got that big number up at 1399, the May 31st
Some of
high.
these financials are opening into resistance, like we just when we're going through the charts here for you. It is interesting when you get these setups. Obviously, we're up strong here. Are we going to go up 18 and be up 30 today? I don't know, but just keep
No
an
way.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying too. It's a big move for the market here. They're really excited here in the pre-market, but when the real liquidity comes in at 9:30, you wonder if they're going to take some profits here because some of these financials are approaching up towards 52-week highs. A lot of them are obviously approaching up at resistance, so it wouldn't surprise me if this is an open where they might open and give some back. But you just got to be careful. Watch the first few minutes of trade to try to get an indicator. Obviously, if the stock opens, like a Bank of America opens 1354, starts rallying 1355 and up to through 1360, then that play doesn't work. I kind of want almost when I'm doing those trades, if I'm gonna short it, I'm not saying I'm gonna do that, but I'm saying if I was going to do it, I'd want almost immediate gratification from it. I wouldn't want to take much heat on it. You want, and a lot of times you'll see days like the stocks open up the high and then come back. If they start taking out through where they open, then I'd get concerned. So just think about that when you're trading. Obviously, be careful with this open. You can lose a lot of money in a hurry, but you can also make some money too because of the increased
You
Initial
don't
volatility.
like
jobless
take
claims for the week ended July 6th coming in at 360,000. Economists were looking for a reading of 340,000. The prior week reading was revised slightly higher from an initial 343,000 to 344,000. Continuing claims coming in at 2.977 million. Also just out was import price index for the month of June coming in down 0.2%. Economists were looking for a flat reading. That was month over month. The year over year reading for import price index was up 0.2%. Economists looking for a 0.4% gain.
Okay, Brent, thank you. That didn't seem to move the futures markets much, huh, Dennis?
No, just I think it's all just we're all up on Big Bad Ben here, and everything else seems to be irrelevant to this market right now. We bounced around about
Two
a
things,
dollar on that.
a point. Yeah, two points I wanted to mention too. You were mentioning about the banks and opening up into resistance. Also you have earnings coming out on two of the
Yes.
big boys. J.P.
Yep.
Morgan
Wells.
and it's there's going to be definitely some added volatility with that. But and just one other thing before I lose my train of thought. I mean, Ben makes this comments. Okay, how does this make Google worth $7.47 more than it was yesterday? I mean, this is fundamental news. It is interest rates and stuff, but you got to really factor in, does this change the earnings? And this is in the words of who was it? Was it Greenspan? Irrational exuberance. I mean, that's what you could have here in this market today.
Yeah, interesting. Bring up the chart on Google because interesting that you do point that out, and it is up, and that's just a fair value play, is why it's trading up $7 just with overall fair value when the S&P futures are going higher. It's a huge component in the S&P futures, so that's why it's trading higher. But when you do talk about it from a fundamental perspective, I don't know how much the QE really affects Google. And so exactly, it affects the financials a hell of a lot more. But interesting chart here on Google too. You're opening up just over that high that we set from a couple days ago, up at 912.95. You're trading at 913.5 right now. So you are right there right now at this whole 911 and 913 area where this Google has struggled for 3 days. If it can take that number out, maybe it opens up. But otherwise, resistance is resistance until it's broke, I guess.
Yeah, 1493 has been high in the pre-market, and then you also you have the all-time high. What is that? Like 920.20
I
or
think it's
something
higher
like
than
that?
that, actually. Just go grab it here. I think it's actually 9. Well, you might be close, Joe. You've got a better memory than I do. Yeah, 920.60. I was
920.60. Yep,
correcting you for
yep.
40 cents. So yeah, wow, that's just incredible there. I still think Google eventually could challenge that $1,000, but I don't know if it's going to do it today. Long
You're not
term, I
going to
still
give it
like
away.
Google.
Just,
I like
yep.
that company. They do a lot of things right. Fundamentally speaking, I like that company. A lot better than Apple because we always talk about Apple with
Oh,
Google, and
jeez.
man, I have to kind of be a downer here. Apple's obviously not up quite as much as the overall market. It just seems to be Apple's a funny stock. It doesn't seem to play with fair value. It seems to do its own thing here, at least for the last 6 months. It almost seems sometimes the market's up, Apple's down. Sometimes the market's down, Apple's up. It almost seems like it's a counter trade of the market sometimes. But it is up here a little bit this morning. We are butting up against that resistance. Once again, it seems like every day we keep hanging out around 420. We did get away from it a little bit, but then we closed back just off the 420 level. So 420 continues to act like a magnet here. Is that going to hold the stock down again today?
Oh, man, I'm kind of kicking myself, not as much as I thought I was, because I was trying to play those 425 weeklies and got right near it yesterday and just couldn't crack through it. So I lightened up on them a little bit. But man, that just, look at all those highs there. I mean,
Yep.
what do you have? 4 or 5 highs between 423.29 and, 424.80. I mean, someone must really not want to see those 425 weekly calls
Yeah.
go in the money because boy, I mean, even with the market up 16 like this, I don't know. I'd keep an eye on that one because if it can maybe get a 425 print or whatever, you might be able to go up to that 431.66 high from June 19th.
Just seems like there's no interest in the issue, though. It
Yeah.
just doesn't participate with the overall market. It does its own thing. So who knows? It could go up there, print 425, and then the 420 magnet grabs it again and pulls it back down. So that's one of those magnet trades where when you're playing it away from 420, it seems to always migrate back to that number. So keep that in mind until that magnet trade doesn't work anymore. We do have earnings last night from Yum Brands, YUM, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, KFC. Stock actually beat 56 cents versus 54 cents. Revenue is a bit light, 2.9 billion versus 2.93 billion. They are rallying the stock a little bit here this morning. It's trading up at 73 and a quarter right now. That's coming up into some resistance areas too, though.
Yeah, that's interesting level. 73 quarter is the high, the level you're trading at in the pre-market. You got to look at the 73.50 levels. Been sniffed a few times.
Yeah.
73.46 was the high on July 9th. I'd be keeping an eye on that. And above that, you have the high of the move at 73.89. So it looks like someone's targeting that mid 73 area as an exit point in Yum Brands.
A couple other ones here just upgraded. Interesting AMD, which we haven't talked about for a couple weeks here. It has consolidated like crazy around this $4 area. Like, look at that
Oh my
consolidation.
God.
Crazy consolidation. Canaccord Genuity and Bank of America both upgrading the stock today. So I guess they like the consolidation. I guess they like Big Bad Ben's comments. They are upgrading AMD, and AMD is off to the races here, trading up at 422 here this morning. This is a huge move for a $4 stock.
Yeah.
You're talking a stock that typically has a range of about a dime, and it's up here over 25 cents here this morning.
Yeah, this is interesting. You have multiple highs right at the 420 level. I think there was a Barron's article not too long ago that boosted it up, hit 420, got beat back down. Then it here you are again, hanging out at 4. You're knocking above that 420 level again. So, if you get immediate follow through the 420, you got some room up to the 430 and 440 level. But just based on prior performance here, it has not been able to follow through. Just one quick note here: we did get the 431 in the pre-market,
Oh,
so
wow.
someone did pay up here. So that
Man.
420, despite the gap in the $4 stock here, the 14-cent gap, AMD may be worth a look.
It's an impressive move for AMD here this morning. Hess, HES, getting upgraded at JP Morgan here this morning. $70.45 is where it just ticked to, actually 70.26 now. After closing at 68.73, I was going to cite some resistance around that $70 level here on Hess, but it looks like it's taken that out this morning.
Looking at the pre-market, you hit a high of 70.84, so quite a big move here on the upgrade, along with the market up a buck 53. Looking at the dailies, you did have all those highs at 70, but after that, you had a high of 70.95 on June 16th. So that would be the next level to keep an eye on in Hess.
One other one here I just want to point out was ADI is getting upgraded at Jefferies. The stock's trading up. Actually, it hasn't made any trades here, but it's bid up this morning. But if you look at this chart, this one's very, very interesting on analog devices. We're approaching now 52-week highs that we have been up to multiple times. Back in May 20th, we got up as high as 47.20. If we go back to February 20th, we got up to 47.27. And here we are, now we're approaching 47. We're bid up at 47.35. Can it break out there and make it a new 52-week high?
Probably, might be a little stock kicking around here at 47. It's just a little bit of a thinner issue. I haven't looked at the volume on this. Trades around 1 million shares.
It's a
So,
bet.
yeah, I mean, it's only 50 cents away from that 47.20 level. So if you're looking to, let go of a long or initiate a short, it's only 50 cents away from there. So take a look at that level.
Yeah, and obviously the upgrade could push it up to get it to a little bit of breakout mode here too. So keep those levels in mind on analog devices. Let's just take a quick look at gold because we're running short on time. But gold is up enormously on Big Bad Ben's comments, up 35 bucks basically on the gold futures here. 1286 is where we just ticked up to. The GLD's up $3.55. So impressive move for gold here this morning.
Yeah, well, it gave you enough opportunities to take a look at that 1260 level. Kept on, bumping up against it, and then boom, overnight is when it does it. So unless you had the position in there, you're not in. Probably looking at 1297.20 is the current high. You got a nice round number in the gold futures. 1300 could provide some resistance. Going to the actual number. You had a double top at 130070 and 130170 on June 21 and June 24.
1301.
Yeah, 1301 is what I keep. I mean, we're 15, 16 bucks away from here.
But we're probably going to have some volatility, so when we reapproach that 1300 level, some traders might be targeting that whole 1300 level as a spot to lighten up. So don't be surprised if we do run into a little bit of resistance back at that third. What's the pre-market high there, Joel? Do you have it there?
1297.20.
Okay, so call the whole area at 1300, and it looks like it's at least got some technical relevance there. So we'll keep that level in mind. Quickly, S&P futures up 15.5 here now, trading 1664. So we have given back about a couple of bucks here since we started the show. Slowly drifting down. Can this market hold this rally? That is the big question.
Well, if I wasn't short coming in, I'd be really love to short this. Short this open. No, I'm just joking here. Let's see here. I'm going to go to the 15-minute chart here, Dennis, and because when I went to bed last night, we were trading up here at this level. Got up early this morning to check. We're still trading at this level.
A lot of consolidation here.
Yeah, a lot of consolidation here. The current low. Let me check that for our traders. The low on the 15-minute here, I believe, is around the 1362 level. So I'm keeping an eye on that as
16,
minor,
67.
yeah, 16. What I say, 13?
You
Actually,
don't even care about handles. You just look at the last
I
one.
don't, I don't.
That's a trader
60,
mentality. Never look at the handle. Oops.
62.75. That's what I'm looking at. That
62.
was a low around, yeah, the right around 7 o'clock this morning. You made that low here. We're still holding 2 points above that. I think if you do break down into that, you could get a little bit of a sell-off, and then using that 67.50 high as a bogey, they've have actually made 4 attempts to take that level out since 1:30 this morning. So even though you got a huge range, you definitely have 5 point range to take a close look at in the when the trading starts today.
Well, that's our show for today, guys. Have a great trading session, and we will be back at you tomorrow morning.